Hello friend, James here from Awaken Therapy. I wanted to talk about a soul journey aspect today, and that's your journey as a soul warrior out from the oneness, the merged unity of the top of the pyramid. So if we're looking at a pyramid, which is a really good symbol of this, at the top we've got that point of unity, of harmony, of oneness, and that's what we were created in. That's what we're all longing for deep down. That's really what our spiritual human journey is evolving towards. It's like returning back to that oneness. But just being formed in that ocean, like a drop merged in that ocean, the problem of that was that we were all half asleep. We were diffuse and dissolved and just so merged in that unity consciousness, in that oneness, that, well, it's all very blissful, but the masculine aspect of the soul wanted to experience itself as an individual, to experience ourself as a unique, focused part of that. So the feminine aspect of our soul is back to unity, back to oneness, back to connection and wholeness. The masculine is to be focused and separate. And so from that impulse we ventured away from that merging out into this state of separation, out into the cosmos, having experience as a human being incarnate on this planet. Well, what are we experiencing constantly? Constantly experiencing duality, this dance between the polarities of light and dark, and day and night, and hot and cold, and everything else, happy, sad. You can bring it to emotions. You can think of it in every single form of energetics. There's the feminine and masculine aspect, those two polarities, and every single variation and combination within that. But the desire to know ourselves in that separation, to experience ourselves in that polarity, that's really what prods our conscious awareness. So that's been prompting our growth and awareness of everything really, including fear versus love and dark versus light. And within that we get to know ourselves as a conscious co-creator, as an individual. It's ultimately about developing this individuated sense of I am. And so from that separation state, which it's very challenging, it's very hard. In a lot of ways it's not a lot of fun. It can be very fun and very not fun. And so we feel that longing from separation, then to return back to the oneness. And so this is like the prodigal son, deciding to come home. This is the longing of our soul, the feminine aspect of our soul, wanting to come back to unity and connection and wholeness and oneness, in relationship, in joining with everyone and everything else. And so through our healing work, our therapy, our spiritual growth, the way I understand it is that there's nothing wrong with being away from that oneness. How else would we know who we are as an individuated soul? But we wouldn't want to stay stuck there. We want to merge back to the oneness. And just as we didn't want to stay stuck in the oneness, just merged in that half asleep state, we wanted to know separation. It's really the out-breath of God and the in-breath of God. It's the tide going out, the tide coming back in, or whatever metaphor you want to use. So I love to understand it in that way, because then you put therapy into that context, and it's like all the challenges, all the contrast, all the light and dark. I mean, it's the dark that we get jammed up on. But when we understand that it's purposeful on the deepest level to experience the challenge of duality, then it helps us in the healing, helps us in the letting go. The book I'm writing, the Soul Warrior book, which you've probably heard about already, this is really about healing out our trauma at the deepest level by including that spiritual understanding. Because when you see it as purposeful, when we see the experiencing of light and dark as part of the evolution of our soul, even though it sucks majorly on a human level, it makes sense on a soul level. and it helps us in the upper levels of healing and releasing our trauma. And so our journey is coming home. Often I sort of see it as Christmas tree lights, because we have to know both sides of a stuckness in us. There's always a duality. So we're healing out the duality, and like Christmas tree lights, we're gradually returning back to the top of the tree, back to that light at the top, back into that oneness. But then beyond that, with the soul knowing itself in both the masculine expression, the feminine expression, then we can go back into that wholeness, that connection with spirit, which is beyond all duality, in a fully informed way. Hope you find that interesting. Love to share this stuff. It's just a big picture spiritual context that helps very much in our personal development growth and definitely in our trauma work, to frame it in that way. So happy Christmas tree climbing, pyramid climbing, and brave you for venturing out into an experience of intense separation and duality. But Godspeed to you too in your return journey home to oneness. But remember, you're not going back as you left. You come back with a conscious awareness of self and individuation and I amness that you would not have if you hadn't been brave enough to venture away from home.